Welcome to the EQ Fit podcast. Our mission is to equip people to prosper in every aspect of their life. Whether you're at home or in the workplace, we explore practical ways of improving success, satisfaction, finding balance, and building enjoyable and beneficial relationships. Thank you for joining us. As we continue our focus on leadership, I really want to focus in today on emotional intelligence as an accelerator of leadership success. And I talk about emotional intelligence a lot, and it's because I work with it a lot. I've spent more than a decade doing a deep dive on the neuroscience of emotional intelligence and how important it is to our everyday life. And I've created online courses and blog articles and podcast episodes and so many different forms of content, including ebooks and white papers about the role of emotional intelligence in our lives and in our work, because it has a huge impact on how we show up, how much energy do we have, how much focus, how well do we spend our time? Do we get stuck in cycles that are non-productive? Or are we able to move forward and really focus in and be productive and accomplish the things that we want to accomplish? And that's not just work. It's life as well. Our relationships, the way we deal with financial challenges, the way that we work through issues with other people, whether it's conflict or resolution that needs to happen, or whether it's grief and we're dealing with loss. All of those at their core have a huge amount of emotional intelligence that could be applied to help in all of those areas. So again, we're going to focus on leadership, but leadership is all of us. We all lead ourselves first, and then we lead other people. Leadership is more than just managing tasks and driving results. It's about inspiring people, navigating challenges with grace, and creating an environment where others can thrive. At the heart of these capabilities lies emotional intelligence. It's a critical factor that accelerates leadership success when you grow your emotional intelligence skills and competencies. It isn't just a buzzword. It's a foundational skill, actually set of skills, that determines a leader's ability to connect with others, to make informed decisions, and to drive sustainable success. And isn't that what we want? So I'm going to share a story like I always do, but I'm going to keep it short today because there's a lot of ground to cover. So for the last decade, I've been working with leaders in many different industries and different types of organizations. The one thing that I know that they all have in common, trying to figure out how to better manage and lead in the face of rapid change, emotional dynamics, and uncertainty. And uncertainty by itself can create all kinds of emotional responses. People can get stuck, or they can just be overly aggressive, and all of those behaviors are driven by emotional responses that come out of the triggers embedded in those feelings people are having. Emotional drivers are absolutely at the root of decisions people make, actions they take, and behavior that you see in people. As I'm working with leaders, there's really two primary battle fronts, if you'll allow me to use that terminology here. The first one is inside their own head. And am I doing this right? what am I doing that's going to be good and productive? What am I doing that's not going to help? How am I impacting other people? Is this going to work? Is it not going to work? Are they going to buy into my vision? And there's so many things going on in a leader's head. And really, all of us have experienced that at some level. The other thing, the other battlefront, is the dynamics in the environment that they live and work in. So think of internal dynamics and external dynamics. Those are the two battlefronts for, as we're talking about leaders here. As many, many leaders have said to me over the years, leadership would be so much easier if it were not for the people. Yeah, you got it right. And I know that's humorous, but in a lot of ways it's kind of true. Here's a problem with that, though. I don't think you can call it leadership if there aren't other people involved. So, we may have to rethink that one. But this is where emotional intelligence enters and is so important. What most leaders have resigned themselves to be just inevitable, which are the challenges of people in the workplace, it doesn't have to be so difficult or so stressful. A deep understanding of first ourselves allows us to have a deeper understanding of other people. And at our core are our beliefs, our values, the things that are critically important to us. And from that, we create a set of rules that we live by. Those two things generate emotions around all of the things that happen in our lives. Those are the filters that we use to see the things in our lives and to react to those things. And so once those emotions are generated, depending on the situation and how our filters are putting things into perspective for us, that is going to create our self-talk. It's going to create the way we make decisions, the actions we take, our behavior. So the more that we can understand this foundational element of emotions, because emotions are the bridge between thoughts and actions. Somewhere in there is decisions. We make a decision before we take an action, but emotions are the bridge. There is always going to be an emotional component to the decisions we make. And it's why in marketing, you see, whether it's some product they want to sell you or whether it's fundraising for a charity, they're always trying to leverage the emotional component that really tugs at the heartstrings, that really tugs at the desires of people. And we are so inundated with this every day that we don't necessarily see the same dynamic at work in the workplace and with other people. But it's critical that we don't miss that. So the better we can understand all of this about ourselves and others and how emotions play a role in that, the better equipped we're going to be better leaders, which is what this is all about. So you don't have to resign yourself to, oh my gosh, that's just the way it's always going to be. We need to understand our personal emotional environment and then start to understand that of others. And as we talked about before, emotional intelligence can be broken down into 5 different categories. And I keep repeating this because I don't know who's heard this and who hasn't. So, bear with me if you've heard it before. Repetition is not a bad thing. It starts with self-awareness, and then there's self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Those are the 5 big categories of emotional intelligence. Each of these plays a very significant role in shaping a leader's effectiveness. And when it's fully developed, when these categories, these competencies are fully developed, it can significantly enhance leadership outcomes. So let's break each of these down and look at what is the definition of that competency of emotional intelligence, what impact does it have on leadership success, and what are some specific ways to develop those. I always like to add those practical ways to develop these because that's kind of the whole point of what I'm trying to get across to people. Emotional intelligence skills are the easiest skills to grow and develop, period. You can't change IQ very easily. You can't change your personality very easily. There's a lot of things that are kind of locked in, at least for longer periods of time. But emotional intelligence skills are the most impactful for leadership success. And at the same time, they're the easiest to learn. So let's jump in here. The first one being self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, and the impact that they're having on yourself and on other people. It is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence because it enables leaders to understand how their emotions affect their thoughts, their decisions, their actions, and their behavior. So what impact does self-awareness have on leadership success? Leaders who are self-aware are better equipped to manage their own emotions and reactions, which fosters trust and credibility. They can make more informed decisions. They can anticipate how they might be perceived by others, and that's critical. And they can align their actions with their values. This insight also enables them to recognize areas for personal development, which leads to continuous growth. So how do we do that with self-awareness? Reflective practice. Regularly take time to reflect on your actions, your decisions, your interactions with others. Journaling that can be a powerful tool for this. Number 2, seek feedback. Actively solicit feedback from peers, mentors, and team members to gain a different perspective than your own on your behavior and its impact. And the third is mindfulness training. And again, mindfulness is not some weird new age thing. It's literally being mindful, thinking about and spending some time in your own mind, engaging in a process to help you understand, stay present, and attune your thoughts and emotions. It's the ability to give your brain the time to process and assimilate things and decide if there's a better way to do it or how would I change it next time. That's mindfulness. So the next one that we want to talk about here with each of these is how do we measure those and what's important as we measure these. To measure self-awareness, we know there are many assessments that can do that, which focus on the ability to really understand where are you in emotional intelligence skills. In this case, specifically measuring self-awareness. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to give you some assessments. I'm going to talk about some assessments that are specific to these different competencies and skills that you want to measure. Why? Because I fully believe better data leads to better decisions. And if you're going to grow and develop your own skills, that's a decision. And you need good data. I mean, there's very few things in life that we would willingly go into without getting the best information we can up front. And so we'll talk about how to measure all of these down the road. I just wanted to kind of plant that seed for later on in this episode. The second major category is self-regulation. It is the ability to manage and control your emotions, especially in stressful or challenging situations. It involves staying calm, being composed, making thoughtful decisions rather than just reacting impulsively. Now, what kind of impact does that have on leadership success? Leaders who can excel in self regulation are seen as trustworthy and dependable. They maintain professionalism even in difficult situations, which fosters a stable and secure environment for their teams. I cannot stress for you how important that is. When a leader gets derailed or behaves in ways that are not normal or overreacts to something, there is a cascade effect that happens. And I'm not saying that you can't be a human being and be upset by things or angry about things or feel sad that's not what I'm saying. But as a leader, the way that we regulate those emotions are critical to the environment around us, which includes our team members. So this ability to stay composed under pressure also allows leaders to navigate conflicts and crisis with much greater effectiveness. How do we develop more self-regulation? Well, first, practice emotional pause. Before reacting to a situation, take a moment to pause, breathe, consider your response. Do you remember the old saying, count to 10 when you're angry? There's real science behind that because in about 6 seconds, the intensity of the emotion that you're having will start to subside. So you can think more clearly. Because I guarantee you, people who are in high emotional stress situations have less access to their higher cognitive thinking processes than when they're not. It's just a fact. It's just you get almost overwhelmed by the emotion. That is why this emotional pause is so important. Number 2, develop coping strategies. Identify and implement coping mechanisms for stress, such as exercise, meditation, deep breathing, or just go take a walk. Step away, take a breath, do what you need to do to allow that time for your brain to get back into a good, centered, and balanced place. And number 3, set boundaries. Establish clear boundaries to protect your emotional well-being, including knowing when to say no and when to delegate tasks. Great things for leaders to do. Delegation is one of the most difficult things I'm seeing leaders deal with today. For a variety of reasons. But these are very good ways to grow self-regulation. So the next one is motivation. Motivation in emotional intelligence refers to the intrinsic drive to achieve goals. It's more about achieving a goal for the accomplishment feeling that you get and for that sense of pride to achieve that goal. It isn't as much for external rewards or external accolades. So the more that you can enhance your internal or intrinsic motivation, it's going to help you persevere in the face of challenges. It's going to help you maintain an optimistic outlook even during times when you get setbacks or things don't go the way you want them to. It goes beyond the external rewards and it taps into a deeper personal desire to succeed. So what does that do for leadership success? Motivated leaders inspire those around them. Their passion, their commitment to achieving goals, that becomes contagious, leading to higher levels of engagement and productivity among their teams. Moreover, their resilience in the face of obstacles, it sets a powerful example. It encourages others to push through difficulties. And that's what we want is greater engagement with the whole team. How do we develop this? Set personal goals. Clearly define your personal and professional goals and regularly review those and assess where you are with those. Number 2, cultivate a growth mindset. Focus on learning and improving rather than on the pursuit of perfection. Perfection is the enemy of good, and most of the time, all we need is good. So don't let perfection get in the way of good and the way of progress. Embrace challenges as opportunities to grow. And the third way to grow, motivation, celebrate achievements. This is so important. Acknowledge and celebrate both the small and the big achievements, the big victories. I am bad about this. I tend to look to celebrate just the big victories. But I've got to remember to enhance and refresh my motivation. I need to celebrate the small wins as well. Empathy. That's the next one, the next big competency of emotional intelligence, and one that I think is very misunderstood, but is probably one of the most powerful competencies of emotional intelligence. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It involves being attuned to the emotional cues of others and responding in a way that is compassionate and supportive. It is being willing to listen and to understand the perceptions and perspectives of other people. You don't have to agree with them, but empathy is about an active practice of listening and being compassionate and supportive. How does that impact leadership success? Empathy is essential for building strong relationships and fostering a positive work environment. Leaders who are empathetic are better equipped to connect with their team members because team members are going to be more open, right? If they know you're going to be compassionate and understanding, then they're going to be more open to share things with you. It helps you to understand their needs and their concerns. You can provide the support necessary to help them succeed. And the emotional connection in this practice of empathy, it fosters loyalty, it fosters trust and collaboration. So how do we develop empathy? Active listening, we've talked about that already. Practice active listening by giving full attention to the speaker. I call it being fully present in the moment, not looking at your phone, not doing other things. Number 2, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Try to see the situation from their perspective. That's a great practice. You don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to understand all of it, but try it so you can at least get a sense of where they're coming from. And the third, engage in compassionate actions. Show genuine concern for people and care for others through small acts of kindness and support. It doesn't have to be huge things, but be genuine in that. And then the last of the 5 that we'll talk about, social skills. Building strong relationships by encompassing this ability to take all of the different competencies we've talked about and put them together to better manage relationships, to communicate more effectively, and to navigate the social complexities that are going to be there, period. This includes everything from managing teams and resolving conflicts to inspiring and leading change. There's a lot more to leadership than just management, and I see management as a subset of leadership skills. And so this is a critical one because this is where it all comes together in interpersonal relationships and interactions, in the way that we work with people, the way that we try to influence others. How does this impact leadership success? Leaders with strong social skills are adept at building and maintaining relationships which are critical for team cohesion and collaboration. They can influence others, they can negotiate effectively, and they can manage conflicts more constructively. Their ability to communicate clearly and persuasively is an absolute critical success factor when it comes to driving the initiatives to achieve the goals that need to be achieved. So how do we develop that competency? Practice effective communication. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? But the reality is, yeah, let's do that. Let's practice getting better and better at the way we communicate. Part of that, I'll give you a little secret hint here. Part of that, don't assume other people understand things the same way you do. So much waste in organizations comes from people thinking other people understand things the same way that they do. I mean, it's incredible how much waste happens because of that. So work on verbal and nonverbal communication skills, be clear, be concise, and ensure that your body language aligns with your words. Now, the next thing we can do to develop this social skills area is conflict resolution skills. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding about conflict. Conflict is just something that's unresolved. So learn and practice strategies for resolving conflicts in a way that is constructive and it maintains relationships at the same time. Resolve the differences, resolve the conflict. Conflict doesn't necessarily mean confrontation or a battle or a fight. It's just a difference of opinions or a difference in the way people see things. And then the third way to develop social skills, build and maintain networks. Actively seek to build and nurture relationships both within and outside of the organization. And that kind of brings together the 5 competencies. So now we need to really focus on how do we measure those and what do those measures mean and are they actionable? Can we get truly actionable data out of measures of emotional intelligence? Well, the answer to that is yes, we actually can, and it's important that we measure people who want to become better leaders, who are serious about committing to that. Emotional intelligence skills have to be a part of the foundation of their leadership skills. So measuring emotional intelligence is critical for leadership development. Without accurate measurement, it's very challenging to identify areas of strength and areas that need improving. Good assessments provide a roadmap for growth, helping leaders focus on developing the skills that will be most beneficial in their leadership journey. And it's not going to be the same for everybody because everybody's different. That's why these measurements are so very important. Accurate and comprehensive measures offer insights into strengths that can be leveraged to enhance leadership effectiveness, gaps that need to be addressed to prevent potential leadership derailers, and developmental paths that are tailored to fit individual needs, which allows for a targeted and efficient growth process. So, how do we do this? I want to talk a little bit about specific assessments. So, to enhance leadership success through emotional intelligence, it's important to utilize reliable and validated assessments. I'm going to share with you some assessments that I use that I have found to be the best of class and that really truly provide actionable data. The first one is the SEI, Leading Through Change Assessment from 6 seconds. What does it measure? It measures emotional intelligence, competencies, and skills specifically. It covers the categories we're talking about, but it goes even deeper than that. It focuses on how well leaders manage change, how they navigate uncertainty, how they inspire others during times of transition. It measures 8 specific skills of emotional intelligence that are profoundly powerful in the leadership dynamic. How does it help? It identifies strengths and gaps, not just in change management skills, but across the board in communication, in leadership skills. It's called a leadership assessment for a reason. It helps leaders develop strategies to effectively lead people through change and on a regular basis, just bring more cohesiveness, more collaboration, more engagement. That's what we want. It ensures that they can remain resilient and supportive of their teams during challenging times. So, wonderful, wonderful measure. This is a foundational assessment I use with every leader I work with, in every organization that I work with. The second group of assessments are called the vital signs assessments. And again, this is from 6 Seconds. This is a very cool toolkit of assessments. Let me explain what I mean by that. There's a leadership vital signs, which is a 360 assessment that leaders can get input from their supervisor, from their peers, from their team, from other people. There's a team vital signs, which literally measures how the team is doing in 5 critical success factors. And this is the same for all of the vital signs assessments. What are those 5 critical success factors? Trust, execution, change, teamwork, and motivation. Those 5 drivers of success and the measures of those in a leader, in a team, or even in an entire organization, which is the third assessment in this toolkit of assessments of vital signs. These are truly actionable data assessments. They will give you information that will help you grow your leadership. It'll help you with your team. It'll help you with your entire organization, because those 5 drivers and the outcomes of those 5 drivers are critical to success for leaders, teams, and organizations. The next one, and I'm excited about this one, Life Thrive and EQ Fit, of course, my company being EQ Fit, we are partnering together on an emotional intelligence assessment that covers the 5 categories and measures where people are in the 5 categories that we've talked about: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. It's going to be released in the near future. This partnership between Dr. Chuck Coker and myself to create this assessment is specifically designed to offer insights into emotional intelligence so that people can understand where they are. Where are their strengths? Where are their gap areas? But it's really going to also provide some steps in where do we go from here. It isn't just going to be assessment data. It's going to be ideas on how you can grow and develop these specific skills. It's a wonderful tool that I'm excited about releasing in the near future. Another one is the habit story assessment. And I've talked about this on previous episodes. This is a critical assessment. This is a true root cause assessment. It measures the productive and counterproductive habits that people have. It measures their response patterns, and it measures their emotional state. Now, when you put those kinds of measures together, and the triggers for those habits are emotions in themselves, things like care and hope and fear. When you start to get into an assessment like the habit story assessment, you're now looking at something that can make a massive difference in changing direction of individuals, of teams, of leaders, of entire organizations by identifying the root causes of things that we want to change. So if we're seeing performance issues, if we're seeing communication issues, if we're seeing relationship issues that are not what we want them to be, we can now identify the counterproductive habits that are driving those. Things like blame fixing and dismissing and denying. Counterproductive habits offset your productive habits. So to become a better leader, you need to reduce your counterproductive habits so that your productive habits can shine. But how do you do that without knowing what those are and what those measures are? This is truly groundbreaking stuff here. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing else on the market like it. And I am 100% bought into this because I am seeing the massive difference it's making in people's lives when I start to show them this information and they start to understand and be able to identify what those counterproductive habits are, and then they put the commitment and effort in to change those, and we're starting to see some wonderful success stories out of that. So that's another one. Then there's a 360 emotional intelligence assessment, kind of similar to the leadership 360, but this is specifically on the measures of emotional intelligence that we would measure those 8 different skills. And as you can imagine, this is going to give an individual a great deal more information in their specific areas of how they are showing up for other people through this 360 process. And if you want to get better, you do need to invite feedback. Feedback is a gift. We need to invite feedback, and you don't have to change your whole life because of one person's feedback, but feedback is critical to understanding how you are showing up for others and how others are perceiving your decisions, your actions, your behavior. That's important, and it's critical in leadership. So all of these assessments help because they really give us data that we can work with. Better data, better decisions. And if we're going to talk about decisions about ourselves as leaders and growing our leadership, that's a critical aspect of that. So let me finish up with a few numbers that I hope will drive home the importance of all of this. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, the measure is actually called EQ, is 2 to 4 times more likely to predict success than IQ. So it's much more predictive of success than IQ is. Leaders with high EQ measures are 7 times more likely to have high performance scores for their leadership. Now, this is coming out of the 6 Seconds Global Report. Organizations that prioritize EQ development are 22 times more likely to be high-performing organizations. 22 times more likely. High EQ leaders and organizations create better customer relationships. That's kind of common sense, right? Well, let's put dollars and cents to that. Improving customer loyalty in this way, just a 5% increase in customer loyalty averages a 25% increase in profitability. So here's what it boils down to. If you want to increase the success of your leadership, you do it by starting to grow those skills and competencies of emotional intelligence that we've been talking to. And if you want to talk to somebody, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to have that conversation with you. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions about this week's episode or maybe a suggestion for future episodes you'd like us to explore, please contact us through our website at eqfit.org. For more information and inspiration, connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at EQFit.